So, Jason, there has been a lot, I'd say a huge uptake in focus on the concept of a CBOM.
Cryptographic Bill of Materials.
Cryptographic Bill of Materials. What's a CBOM?
You know, Tim, if you're building a system that is using cryptography of some kind, it's just like any other bill of materials where it's like, what's in there?
It's an S-bomb for your cryptography.
There you
right?
go. There you go.
You just want to say what's the cryptography that we're using, right?
That's right.
How are we using it? And why is there so much interest in CBOMs of late?
Well, you and I have probably said more times than anybody else for 6 years now.
Yep.
You need to be taking inventory of your cryptographic assets.
Because otherwise, how are you going to be able to make sure that it is post-quantum reliable or make knowing eyes open decisions of what's going to be and what's not and at what time frame is it all going to move over? And it all starts with knowledge, right? So agreed. And we've said this a lot. You and I have said this on webinars. We've said it on this show. We've each said it individually to lots of people, offline. So that's great. If you're not working on your CBOM, work on your CBOM. Highly recommend it. But I think there's a more to this that we want to talk about, which is a cryptographic bill of materials needs to be more than a list of the cryptography you're using and where it is. In addition to this, I think it's important to understand what is the PQC readiness of these systems, the environments in which that cryptography is in place, right? If I'm going to swap out my RSA for ML-Chem and everything is going to break because the key sizes are too big or the handshake takes too long and it all times out, that's fundamentally different than if it's not. And knowing that is necessary, not just for ML-Chem, for the full set of algorithms you're going to use. So at least Chem and DSA. Knowing that is part of the CBOM creation process.
Yeah, context is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the context is we talked about a few aspects of this. Can the system consume key lengths that are bigger than we have now?
Yeah.
Will things break?
Right.
These are all factors that need to be taken into account.
Yeah.
Is it fit for purpose?
Is it fit for purpose? And then the next step after that even is, okay, if it's not fit for purpose, what is necessary, what is involved to make it fit for purpose? Because there's a radical difference between I have 100% confidence that this manufacturer is going to solve this for me. It's a SaaS solution. It'll just happen on their side, or it'll get auto updated. I'm 100% confident. Versus, I feel good about the fact that I'm going to get an update, but I don't know exactly when, and deploying it and patching it might be non-trivial. Versus, this is unsupported software and they haven't touched the code in 5 years, and I'm never, ever getting a patch ever, right? Those three, and of course it's a spectrum, so there's all kinds of nuance and gray in there. But if you use those three examples, they need to be dealt with radically differently. The first one doesn't need to be dealt with. It just magically happens. Ain't that nice? The second one, you make a project, you deliver the project, you make sure you get it done on time, you allocate resources and budgets and time and whatever, you account for some risk. The third one, you need a solution. And that solution is not the status quo. And those three are just so very different, and they depend on what's the cryptography, what's the fitness for purpose, what are the stakes, what's the expected timeline. And so the point I want to make is, you know, I'm reading a lot of articles about CBOMs. I'm hearing a lot of people talking about CBOMs, and they're very focused on this kind of idea of getting a big list of my crypto. There's tools that'll give you a big list of my cryptography. Okay, we need that. I agree, we need that. But don't make the mistake of thinking that now you have your CBOM.
So I'm going to state it slightly differently, exactly what you were talking about, which is SBOMs. What are their typical purposes? Their typical purposes, what am I licensed for? Am I compliant with licensing and things like this?
Sure.
So it has a very singular purpose.
Yeah.
CBOM, if you're trying to use just a list to determine, I mean, it's not meant for licensing purposes.
All right.
So therefore, it needs more context in order for it to be useful to you.
Yeah.
Tim, I think right after this podcast, we're going to do another on this topic because I think it's a whole other idea. I'll just introduce it here, which is I think that you should think about your post-quantum world and the things that, you know, as you're building your contextual CBOM, which is what you really should be calling it.
Sure, I like that. Contextual CBOM.
A contextual CBOM can start to help you to go on a second journey, which is, what do I rip and replace? What do I keep and upgrade? Because it can be, because I've got the context. I now know what works and what doesn't work. I'm thinking about, it's a strange analogy, but I'm thinking about post-World War II, where you had chunks of cities that had been bombed out in Europe. And it's so interesting to go through Europe and see like stuff from the Georgian era sitting right next to stuff that was built in the 1960s. And you know what it is. It's because, well, a V-2 rocket landed there.
Right.
And so you, as directors of IT and CIOs, should be looking at your systems and go, you know, this contextual CBOM is my map of where the craters are.
Okay.
And I shouldn't build my city the way that I did in the previous era. In other words, it's an opportunity to innovate.
Yeah, for sure. Like, absolutely. And especially for some of these, like almost that third category, right? We've been, you know, we've been living with this for a long time, and, you know,
Time to go.
We know that there's some risk, and in the event that there was a problem, we wouldn't really be able to do anything, but it never quite made it to the top of the stack, but now it's going to have to, because we really can't tolerate this being PQC, you know, or, quantum unsafe. And so, right, okay, great. To your point, Jason, fabulous upgrade time, right? Just like where that crater was, we're going to build a nice new modern building, not an old dump. Same idea, right? This and having a considered, coordinated approach to the full suite of upgrades that are necessary may itself be might be better than just considering them individually, right? You might really be able to have a better coordinated plan, and this is the time.
Yes, and that's why this podcast is very specifically about, don't just think CBOM as a list, think about it as a context-rich decision-making engine.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it should, that's what the end goal should be.
Right. Almost a plan. Like taking it all the way to the plan is probably exceeding the boundaries of where we'd want to draw the envelope around a CBOM.
Yep.
But you should be damn near at a plan when you have the information, the full suite of information.
In other words, Tim, I think that's why I use that analogy of, it's like a map of post-war Europe with all the craters.
Yeah.
Where did all the bombs hit?
Yep.
And it's not the full plan of how you move forward, but you know exactly what needs to be replaced because it's the map of the craters.
Yeah.
And that's what your CBOM should be giving you. And that's a lot more context than just a list.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are people who are doing that, and I think maybe in the process of putting your CBOM together, you start to have these revelations.
Yeah.
But, if you're doing this, if this is part of what you're doing, you're tasked with the CBOM, think about the scope of what you're really tasked with, which may not be what you estimated, which may not be what you planned for, which may not be what you're planning on delivering on the date you're planning on delivering it. And maybe that task and the specification for that task perhaps should be reconsidered a little.
There you go.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Jason.